Hi guys, welcome to the Pinnacle Mindset for this week. So I'd like to introduce you to my friend Robbie and also our special guest tonight, Phelan from Grassroots Rugby. So as you're aware of the theme of our shows, this week's topic is still staying on the theme of rugby, but more so looking at grassroots rugby and how COVID has had an effect with regards to going back to play rugby. So we've obviously got Sean on just to clarify a couple of things and to go through what he does at his business and his website. So Sean, if you want to just kickstart the conversation, just go over your website, which I love to bits, and just let the viewers know what you're all about and what you do.
Okay, my name's Phelan. I run Philly Boots, which is an exchange for players and clubs, a bit like a dating service, I guess. If a club or a team is missing a couple of players on a Saturday and they really don't want to cancel, then they can advertise their sort of spots across our social media and our website, and we've got all sorts on there as well. That's how it started about 5 years ago, after I was the captain of my club, Regal Decker, and there was just week after week after week of cancellations because we could only get sort of 9, 10, and we're a very small one-team club, so we could, if we don't get the 15, we can't dip into a seconds team or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was going to be sort of a local thing for sort of smaller clubs, but it turns out 5 years later that it's not. It's a massive problem across sort of all areas. It started. The name came from. I was very drunk on the way home from an NFL game, and my friend pointed at an advert on a tube, and it's just said Philly Boots, and he was like, "Yeah, that's the name of your project." So from there, it's grown into sort of 15,000 followers across all all sort of social networks: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, the whole lot. And now obviously there's no rugby being played, so I had to try and sort of diversify a little bit. And over recent weeks, we've started a podcast and a sort of Facebook live series, which I know Hez has been on already.
Yes.
We spoke about women's rugby.
Yeah.
And we just talk about issues throughout the game, especially at grassroots level, and we've gone into a bit of mental health and things like that. And so trying to keep busy when there's nothing necessarily happening at the moment.
Totally agree with you. And I have used your website for when we've been low on players. I mean, it's very difficult. Well, more so at the moment, but it was very difficult for my team last season when we were literally scraping by to get players, because obviously towards any season, you have a lot of injuries, maybe people tail off, people are getting knackered because you've been playing some long, hard games. So having a resource and a site such as yours, for me personally, was beneficial. And again, it's spreading the word face to face with my colleagues, with my teammates, and doing loads of social media, that your website has been very beneficial to me as well. Rob, I don't know if you were the same with regards to how were you trying to find players when things were maybe tough last season for you?
We mainly struggled during the winter, because obviously during the winter, wind, rain, snow, a lot of players didn't want to turn up, as well as a lot of cancellations anyway due to weather. But when because the league I play in is quite low, it's quite friendly, so you can just go serve the opposition and borrow some of those players.
Yeah.
But obviously when you go up the levels, this is when you need to have this infrastructure to go, right, we can't borrow those players because it's a bit cheeky to ask. Can borrow some of your best players, please? Using this sort of infrastructure is definitely the way forward. Go, for any, someone playing at a sort of a decent level of rugby, that they can go, right, well, we've got like 10 players, we need a few more. We can, you can get on the blower and get some players, and I can definitely agree that's definitely the way forward, shall we say?
Definitely. And Sean, are you finding you're getting a lot of traction from female teams or male teams, or what's the sort of division between both sides there?
I would say it's probably 60-40 in the favour of men at the moment.
Okay.
But as the women's game grows, then I think and more people find us. Unfortunately, go back to the story. There's no marketing budget or anything like that. I'm not a professional. Well, I wasn't a professional marketer. I am now. But so all it was people finding us through word of mouth. So if you didn't know about us, or you didn't have find us on the internet or on social media, then you wouldn't know about us, because RFUs and county RFUs didn't sort of want to help, and so you had to find us through your own ways and means. So I think now that there are more and more women's teams starting up and things like that, then I think actually the balance will shift, because and I spoke about this a few times, that there possibly could be a saturation of women's, the amount of women's teams being formed and the amount of women's players, that actually there might be a need, or there will be a need for something like this, something like Philly Boots, to help those teams survive week in, week out.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think the balance of power will, it's 60-40 at the moment, but as that women's game keeps growing, it's gonna go 50-50, if not more needed on the women's game side.
Totally agree. And obviously playing for a ladies' side myself, it's we're under the circumstances of COVID and everything, and obviously we're sort of doing our fitness training at the moment rather than rugby training or pre-season, which we would normally call it at this time of year. We've actually managed to recruit quite a few girls, and that's through the power of social media, probably more so at this point in time than last year when nothing was happening. I think suddenly everybody's realised that maybe life's a bit too short. They want to keep fit. They want to keep illnesses at bay, because generally we all know the stance that if the fitter you are, the less chance you'll have of catching these illnesses. And I think also, as Robbie knows this anyway, but I've said it in a few of the shows. My rugby team and my coaches and the lads as well in the men's teams, they're like my family. So we've got some of these girls that have never touched a ball before, never played rugby, probably scared about the whole thing. We're welcoming them in with open arms, and it's like having that family relationship, and everybody cares for each other. We look after each other through thick and thin. We have all our private WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, and we have a bit of banter as well. And then obviously the serious comes when we're lining ourselves up for squad selection or playing games, etc. So I guess your team's very much like that, Robbie, as well, being a social team, but it's important because everybody's got different stances of life. And
I think, like I say, rugby, I think you both agree, it's a very unique sport. I think it's 20% is the game, 80% is the social side. E.g., someone said to go out on the beers. But definitely, the team I play for, obviously on the first episode, is an all-inclusive team. Including its name, we include everyone: gay, straight, bisexual, inexperienced. Like I joined quite a very inexperienced player. I've played, at school, and then I enjoyed it at school. Then I went along to a training session, and I fell in love with it. But they only stuck me on the wing, so they just got me running.
Hey, you got to start off somewhere. I've been on the wing for 10 years now, and I love it. And then my last game last season, I played a flanker. So that was a bit of an interesting one. I think my coach was like, "Yeah, go on, Hez, you can do it." Do you know what? I actually really enjoyed it. So it's a sport for anyone. That's what I would always say. Give it a whirl, because sometimes you end up being stagnant in one position, and we've had some girls that have gone from being a back to a forward, or a forward to a back, or integrate between lots of different positions. And you sometimes, you don't realise what your potential is, and a little bit of encouragement and motivation with this sport goes a long way.
And confidence.
Big time.
And confidence.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Confidence is massive.
Because especially if you've never played the game before, and you're thrown straight onto the wing, and you're expected to make runs and maybe make a tackle or two, it will give you that. You have to have that or it will give you that confidence that
It's that
you
feel
might
good
want to then
factor.
step in a position and step in a bit more, step in a bit more, step in a bit more, and then who knows where it can take you. But yeah, for sure.
It's definitely the team element, not an eye sport. That's what I always say. It's a we, not an eye sport. So talking about playing games, obviously we've got this horrendous pandemic at the moment. Again, we're following the RFU guidelines. We, as of last week, have moved to going to play touch rugby. Yeah. So we're obviously in smallish groups, just playing touch, nothing, no contacts, sticking with the rules, sanitizing everything, bringing your own water bottles, towels, etc. So I think I said this in the last chat show as well. What are your thoughts on the next steps in rugby? How long do you reckon we're going to be in this phase for? Do you think this year we'll actually play any contacts, or are we going to just forget it and it's going to happen at some point next year or for a while?
There's a few things there. So now we're at stage C, and the RFU have decided they want to reinvent the touch wheel and call it Ready for Rugby, which is between 6 and 10 player aside game, which actually I think is brilliant. And we just sort of touched on new players and stuff like that. And I think if you're wanting to play rugby, now is the best time to join.
Agreed.
Because we're playing this very skills oriented. I'll do that again. Skills-oriented game.
Yes.
That the people that may not just want to be thrown onto the pitch without sort of knowing what they're doing will get that opportunity, and an elongated sort of pre-season into whenever that will be. Opportunity to learn and sort of get the little bit of experience that they're going to need for when they do take the field, whenever that is. Mm-hmm. I think Ready for Rugby is going to be an excellent addition to this stage that we're in at the moment. As for the next steps, I think stage D at the moment stage C you can play this Ready for Rugby or touch rugby with your own club. Mm-hmm. I think the next thing is playing these Ready for Rugby games against other clubs, which I think is a great idea. Yeah. One, because it will get people into the bars, and we all know that clubs need people in their bars and their clubhouses to generate some income.
Definitely.
And I have an idea about a Philly Boots series that we're going to try with a few clubs in my area, including my own.
Great.
Where over sort of a 5 or 6 week period, we'll all go to each other's grounds. So there'll be 5 teams in sort of doing a rotation, so everyone gets that income. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the sort of the 5 or 6 week period, then there'll be sort of a finals day and
wow,
great idea.
Bit of a trophy at the end of it.
Absolutely amazing, and maybe that's a good thought for other local teams, because
absolutely.
I know in my area there's a lot of ladies teams in Berkshire. So I mean, if anyone's listening and we think that's a good idea, then we'll get in touch with yourself. So
I'm working on that at the moment. I think we've got sort of 6 teams in the South London area that want to take part. And then if anyone else wants to do it, I'll pay for your trophies. I'll pay for your medals, and we'll call it the Philly Root Series, and we'll do it all around the country, and we'll see.
Yes.
We'll
is
see what happens.
Absolutely amazing! What an idea! Wow.
And as a way of getting people into people's clubhouses and spending money behind the bar and putting the barbecue on, and everyone then gets the sort of the equal share of having people in their clubhouses, and hopefully survive for the coming months, especially if then we don't have any proper contact rugby, like your question said.
Yeah.
Do I think there's going to be any contact rugby probably not this side of Christmas?
No.
And who knows? We genuinely don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So I don't think there's sort of any need to guess. I don't think we're going to play.
No, I'm in agreement with you. Yeah. Because I think at the moment we're all taking it cautionary, step by step, day by day, week by week. And we can't, like last year, plan miles ahead, because anything's going to just crash and burn. But I love your idea about the whole networking thing. I totally agree for myself that would be a great support for morale for the team. I think right now is the best time to learn to play rugby or to get your fitness levels up, because every pre-season is, all for me, it always seems very quick, very rushed, and you literally have a few weeks of like training, then you're into some games, just friendly games, and then bam, you've got your season starting. And you see some of those new players and they're almost making themselves physically sick before they go on the pitch, because they're like, we've had no practice, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to mess this up. And it's like, well, at least you're going to give everybody now the confidence that everybody is going to be on that pitch when it's contact, whenever it's going to be, and they're going to be going full guns blazing with their heart and soul in it and 100%, rather than being a jelly on a plate and a quivering wreck. Do you agree there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even for my first game, I literally turned up on a day. I didn't do any training, turned up on a day and played. And I completely agree with you that I wish I went to training before I started that first game, because like I said, I was straight on the wing, didn't know what I was doing, so I just trying to chase the ball, going, hit the ball, hit the ball, hit the ball. And eventually got it, and I actually got a try on my first game. So
oh, wow. Well done.
I know, I was proud of myself for that, but I haven't got many since.
Well done. No, do you know what? Every second on a rugby pitch counts. Everybody is there for a reason. Just because someone scores the try, that's fantastic. That's giving your team points, but everybody's got a role to play. So everybody is just as important.
Yeah, definitely.
So proud. You should be proud of yourself.
What you mean about the confidence. If I went to training, they taught me how to tackle. They taught me how to do runs. They taught me if this. I would have probably been twice the player than I was, and I've probably been a better player for it. But sometimes I like to go chucked to this deep end, shall we say, and get on with it. That's just me. Obviously, other people are different. Obviously, of course.
Best way to learn, isn't it? Go in the deep end, as they say. So, still talking about like attendance now, and I know we've talked about this before, Sean, but what's your view? We've seen that last weekend the Premiership rugby started again. I'm very happy because I support a certain team. Can I say who it is? Yeah, okay. I'm a Quins fan.
Oh, so me too.
Gotta be done. Yeah, good choice. So the boys were back in action, and they had a very good win. But however, it's such a shame, and we know that COVID's in the way. We can't have crowd attendance at the moment. Not yet. Obviously, this is a mental health show, so you think about the players. They're going out there. Same with football and football stadiums recently. They've been going out there, full squads, getting in the zone, scoring those goals, scoring those tries. But there's been nobody apart from the fake sound in the background or a couple of players sitting in the crowd.
Well, they don't hear that sound. They don't hear the crowd sound.
But what's your take on the whole, the mental health attitude towards players going on the pitch? There's nobody shouting, screaming, cheering, saying anything. It must be mentally challenging as a player with that situation at the moment.
Yeah, massively. More so, the young. Some of the, you say most of them actually probably haven't never played in front of no one before.
Yeah,
they've all gone through academies and they've all played in grounds. They've all played, and then they've made the step up to sort of maybe even championship level and National One level, and there's still still a crowd there. And then they've worked their way up to sort of the first team, but there's always been a crowd there, so it must be really, really difficult. And it's not just there's a few other things like the travel on the bus. They're having to share. There's 2 buses taking people to a game. I don't know if you saw that the Sale team had to change in one of the bars because the away changing room isn't big enough.
Wow. Okay.
So you're not in an actual changing room. They were in the Mike Brown bar in the Stoop. So they didn't. There's not. It's not a real sort of changing room environment.
Yeah. No,
that must really upset their mindset. Obviously, they're used to going to the changing rooms, doing their normal routine. Obviously, disrupting that must have a massive effect on the team.
Yeah, I don't. To be honest, I don't know. I'm not around any sort of professional rugby players to ask. I know that Paul Gustard spoke with Frank Lampard about how Chelsea coped playing in front of nobody, and I think he got some good sort of tips on how to sort of make it feel like there is people there. But then again, they are professionals and they're there to do a job.
Yes.
And rugby is their job. Yeah, a very privileged position to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then there's also the sort of the mental aspect of playing. Yeah, they're going to end up playing twice a week, which having also taken quite hefty pay cuts, player welfare is also going to be on their mind too. So I think,
agree.
They're going to have to go back to back. Some squads, some of the sort of smaller squads are going to have to go back to back, and that's not good for anybody. So I think there's going to be a lot of. I think we have to keep an eye on a few people, and manage people. Definitely, people are going to have to be managed, but not being in a professional environment, I wouldn't know what. I would hope to think that they're being managed and
definitely
all the things that are sort of around the game are going to
support them,
and sort of not factor into anything like the crowd noise. I don't think they'll worry about it too much.
No, it's probably the least of their problems, isn't it? They're going out there mentally to win their games, to start the season as if it was normal, and play to their best of their ability. I mean, Quinn's obviously had quite a few new players over at the weekend, and I'm sure many of the other Premiership teams they've got fresh blood in the teams. So I think it's good for anyone, and whether it's Premiership level or grassroots level, to have a game. And that's why I think a lot of us, including myself, I'm very much itching at the moment to just get some game time. And if it needs to be touched for a few months or for however long, guess what? So be it. It's all exercise. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. There's nothing else we can do. It's out of our hands. So we just have to go with the flow and with what the RFU is saying. So sort of leading into the RFU, we know that you are doing or you have been participating in many of the roundtables. Obviously I was very privileged to be on the female one a couple of weeks ago, sort of talking about ladies grassroots rugby, and we had two amazing guests on there as well. So how successful are you finding, like with us, how successfully are you finding your roundtables chat shows at the moment, and what are your plans for the next up and coming shows that you've got?
So the roundtable was born out of the virtual rugby show. I don't know if anyone sort of partaked in that, but a friend of mine, Ed Trainter, was meant to put on this massive expo at the Rico Arena, and obviously that couldn't happen. So what he did is took it virtual and turned it into sort of a rugby's version of Glastonbury, and he had the biggest names doing some sort of exclusive sort of Q&As and live stuff and things like that. And he asked me if I would sort of take care of some of the grassroots stuff, and I said absolutely not. No, never going to do that in a million years. No, I'm not the best public speaker, as you can sort of probably tell, but off the back of that, I actually gained a little bit of confidence. So that week I was like, and actually the last conversation we did was about recruitment and retention, and we overran by sort of 10 minutes. So we were, and there was still plenty of the conversation to talk about. So I pulled those people together and said, look, do you fancy I've got this idea. Do you fancy doing it again on the Thursday night? And we did it, and it got a really good reception. So we did another one, and and it's had different people each week and a different topic each week. We've gone through, as I said, recruitment and retention and club finances and sponsorship, and we did the women's game with you, Hez. And we've done this past week. We did the Scottish game, which is our most watched and most listened to.
Wow.
It was just phenomenal. So we're going to do that again in a couple of weeks' time with the same people, because we didn't even get through half the questions that we sort of had planned. I don't know if you know Bruce from Happiness is Egg-Shaped, but he can tell a story for days and has got days worth of stories. Aww. So it was just great listening to those guys. And so this week, I don't know whether this airs, but on Thursday the 20th, we've got a live Q&A with the RFU's development director, Steve Granger, which is a massive coup for me.
Definitely.
I saw a LinkedIn. No, we've never spoken before, but we connected on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and saw that there was a post without any comments on it. So I thought, there's my opportunity to ask him if he would be up for it. And what's the worst that he can do? He can say no.
Yeah.
So he's going to be taking people's questions live.
Amazing.
Sort of no holds barred, which I'm really scared about because obviously I've never had a conversation with a bloke, and without wanting to piss off the RFU, I really want to piss off the RFU. So just to start conversations, and that's what these roundtables were all about, was starting conversations, and people are going to get the answers, hopefully, to the questions that they need answering. And
Good.
Steve's going to do it live, and hopefully it'll be the biggest thing that the roundtable ever does, hopefully. And then we'll see from there. It was only meant to be sort of a few week thing, just while lockdown was sort of still happening, and stuff like that. Just to try something different, and it's ended up with the 8th one being probably the biggest one we'll do, where it's just me and Steve, and we're just going to answer people's questions. So
wow. Good for you. No, that is really good. And I think right now, so many people have got burning questions, answers. They need clarification on processes, on regulations, on what's next, what's happened. So I think you're going to get a mix of positive and negative. It might cause a few whatever, but you know what? That's what people want to know, and that's what a live chat show is about. That people might get a bit heated, or they might have their own opinions, but that's life. Everybody's got their own views and opinions on various topics right now more than ever. I'll certainly be listening. So, and whereabouts is it going to be on? Is it going to be on Facebook, Sean?
It's going to be on our Facebook page, on facebook.com/FYB Rugby. But then also, for the first time, we're going to do it live on YouTube and live on Twitter as well.
Amazing.
It's my one shot at getting someone from the RFU, especially as high up as Steve is, and sort of well respected as Steve is, to do this. So I'm going to go all out. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be on YouTube.
Buzzing. Yes. Lots of likes, a lot of reposting. Biggest podcast.
If we can make it the biggest one, and then I hope there might be some doors opening for the Philly Boots project after that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This could open some potential doors for you, and also you don't know who's going to be listening on that might go, I want to have a chat with you. Or
exactly.
You just don't know.
Exactly. So hopefully that's what comes out of it, and not it doesn't turn negative. I've got about 100 questions already sent in from viewers already. So
brilliant.
And I've seen them, and 90% of them are negative. So so if anyone's got any positive questions that they want to ask, then drop them in the Philly Roots Facebook comments, and we'll answer them there. But so it's going to be interesting, and it's probably the first one I'm going to rehearse and practice and
suited and booted.
I don't know about suited and booted. I can't get my neck in a shirt these days, but and to be fair, in lockdown I've not worn anything but shorts. So
and me living in sportswear and buying sportswear. That's been my bad thing all lockdown. But hey ho, never mind. That's brilliant. So, Rob, have you got any more questions for Sean at all? Or
I think I'll do my famous last question.
Magic question.
Obviously, a lot of people struggling, obviously, without sport. That's obviously in all sports, as we all know, can't go to the ground. Some people, worship rugby, going to watch, the football, going down there on the Fridays, the Saturdays, the Sundays, whenever they're playing. It must be a hard time. So what would be your advice to them to, is it keep positive, just keep watching the updates and just, hanging on in there, shall we say?
I don't know, but it's a case of just keeping your eyes open, and things are going to change. It might not happen straight away, but things are going to get better. It has to. It just has to. Lockdown's been difficult for a lot of people. I'm not going to lie. I've quite enjoyed it. I had a new baby son right on the peak weekend, so I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. And but I think just keep your eyes open and try not to listen to. I don't want to say the negativity, but there's a lot of people out there with a lot of opinions and about everything. I would make your own mind up, stick to it, and do what works for you, because at the end of the day, it's it's going to be your lives, and yeah, I'm not one for advice, but yeah, I would keep your eyes open and just things are going to get better. They have to. It might be shit now, but
yeah.
Eventually it has to get better.
Good advice.
Rugby will be back, sport will be back.
Yeah.
Life will be back eventually. So just keep hanging in there, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. No, great advice. Thank you.
Brilliant. No, totally agree. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us, isn't there? So on that note, it's been a pleasure having you as a guest finally, rather than me being a guest on your show, Sean. So
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
It's been lovely having you. And obviously we wish you all the best for Thursday's live show being aired on Facebook. So I'll be listening. I'm sure Rob will be as well. I'll be getting, all my girls from the team and spreading the word in the next 2 or 3 days, me, social media queen. So we'll be doing another recorded chat show, next week. We've got a very special guest, which will be announced very shortly. And it's a female guest this time. So watch out for this space. We'll be showing this later this week. So obviously, as per usual, any questions, anything, then just drop us a line at the Pinnacle Mindset Show, either to myself, Hez, or to Robbie on the show as well. But for now, it's been a pleasure having you as a guest, Sean. We wish you all the best for Thursday. Got my fingers crossed for you, and we'll speak to you.
Like a job interview.
We'll speak to you again very soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye. Bye.